Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, and in today's video we are going to dive into Ansible's configuration file and the default inventory. These are the fundamental concepts before we move on to the more advanced topics like playbooks and role, which we will be covering in the next video. In my previous video, we have covered the basics of how Ansible works, its architecture, and setting up passwordless authentication. We have also explored how to run ad hoc commands and set up a basic inventory. If you missed that video, I recommend checking it out first as this one builds on those concepts. I have linked it in the description below. So I've used the same setups which I used in my previous video. So this is my Ansible server. In this, Ansible is already installed. And these two are my managed nodes. So let's jump onto the Ansible configuration concept first. If you installed Ansible using Python, you might notice the default ansible.cfg file is not automatically created. In that case, we need to generate or write our own configuration file from the scratch. And if we see here, ansible version command, it's not showing any configuration file here because we have used pip3 to install the Ansible package. If we want to generate our own configuration file, so we can generate it using ansible-config init disabled means it will comment out all the options so that we can use it as per our requirement. And I'm just putting into ansible.cfg. So this particular command will generate a sample configuration file for us. So we can refer that and we can create our own. And we can see there is a set of arguments already placed into that with a commented section. In this way, we can create a sample configuration file and we can use this sample configuration file as per our requirement and create our own configuration file. By default, Ansible looks for the configuration file in your current working directory. If I run this command ansible version, so it shows ansible.cfg file because I have placed this file into this particular directory. That is my current working directory. That's why it looked for that particular file here. Earlier, it was not showing anything. If I remove this file from here, it will not show anything over there again. Ansible version. So we can see Ansible file is not there because we have removed that file. And if none of the file is present there, it will try to look for the default configuration file, which is the etc ansible.cfg. So this is the default configuration file for the Ansible. So first, let's create our directory structure, Ansible fundamentals. So let's go into the Ansible fundamental directory. And here we will create our configuration file with a basic structuring. So first of all, we need to put defaults here in the square brackets because these are the default parameter which we are going to use for all the playbooks which reside under this particular working directory. So first of all, we will put one parameter called inventory. So here we will be creating directory called my inventory, and then we are using the fox keyword. This controls how many parallel connection Ansible will run at a time. We have set it to the 5. Next is our timeout. This defines how long Ansible will wait for a connection. So here right now I'm putting 30, and at last I'm putting host key checking equal to false. So this disables the SSH host key checking, which can be helpful when you are quickly setting up the testing environment. In our case, I have already set up the passwordless authentication in my last video. So it is already there. So I don't need to use that particular option. But for the testing purpose, we can use this option here and save and exit. Now, if I run the ansible-version command, so it will pick the Ansible configuration file from this current working directory, which is root Ansible fundamentals. Let's create a inventory called my underscore inventory. And here I have placed the information of these two managed nodes. And let's try to make a connection with those nodes here. Ansible hall -m ping. We are successfully able to establish a connection with those managed nodes. And if you see, it picks the inventory or the host information from the my underscore inventory because we have updated those information in our configuration file. That is my underscore inventory is the inventory where you need to look for the host information. If I update to something else and I will try to run the same playbook or same command, it will not work. If I hit this command, so it shows no inventory was passed, only implicit localhost is available because this particular file is not there. That is our Ansible configuration file is looking for my underscore inventory one and that file is not there. That's why it's not able to run this command. And if I update it back to the inventory, so it will able to run that particular command. Now we are going to add one more option that is privilege escalation. Privilege escalation means like whenever we try to connect with this particular managed nodes. So in that node, we are going to use some sudo access. If we need to install some packages or if we want to create some user, for that we need a privilege escalation that is a sudo access. By default, Ansible uses the user by which we have logged into that particular Ansible server. And if we want to update the current user to some another user on which we have a sudo access, so we can update those things into the Ansible inventory. So let's try that. In Ansible inventory, we can use the user called Ansible underscore user to pass the user information. We are going to use EC2 underscore user here and same for this node. Okay. And if I try to run command module with who am I, it will show that we are, oh, I mistyped the username. That should be a EC2 hyphen user, not EC2 underscore user hyphen hyphen. So it will show the EC2 hyphen user is being logged into both the host. If I remove those information about the user, so it will try to log in with the root user. So it's using the root user because we have logged in with the root user on the Ansible server. And if we want to use some privilege escalation, like if we want to install some packages onto that particular server, we won't be able to use it with the EC2 hyphen user. So let's update it back to the Ansible underscore user with the EC2 hyphen user. And let's try to create a user called Nikhil into that particular machine. And for that, we have a user module with a parameter called name, and the name should be Nikhil. And if we try to run that particular command, it won't be able to create it because it's getting a permission denied issue. So if we want to get a privilege escalation or we need to use a sudo privileges using that particular EC2 hyphen user command. So we have an option in this command that is a hyphen V that is become. Become means become a sudo user and add that particular user onto the managed nodes. If I hit enter again with hyphen V option, so it's able to create a user over there. If we see that cat etc pass wd, Nikhil user got created successfully. Another way is that if we don't want to pass the hyphen V option each and every time, we can update this information into our Ansible configuration file. So for that, we have a option called privilege escalation. In that, we have an option called become equal to true, become method. equal to sudo because we are using Linux machine as a managed nodes, become user equal to root. That's it. We don't need to specify this particular -b option again on this command. If I will remove this and if I try to create user called ansible one without -b option, it will able to create that user onto that particular nodes. Yes, we are able to do it because we have used the privilege escalation from the Ansible configuration file. So in this way, we can make our automation more robust. So we don't need to specify the thing again and again. And the similar approach we can use in the Ansible playbook development, which we are going to see in the next videos. To use sudo for privilege escalation, that user that Ansible connects must have an appropriate permission in the sudo's file. Sudo's file is where you configure which user can execute command as other user without a password, that is including the root. Another way to pass the user is to use the Ansible configuration file. Right now, we have placed the user information into the my inventory, that is a custom inventory, but it's not a good approach to use or update the user in inventory file for each of the host. If we are using different user for each host, then we can use this particular approach. If not, if the user is same, so we can update this information into the Ansible configuration file. So for that, let's update the inventory file first and just comment this thing out and update the ansible.cfg. And there is a one keyword called remote underscore user. And here we can use the ec2 hyphen user. So this will be our ansible.cfg file, and the keyword is remote underscore user. Means this user will be used to connect to the managed nodes. So let's try to run that particular command again. Ansible all hyphen m user hyphen a to pass the username. So this time we'll create a user called testing. Press enter. And if we see, we are able to create a user with the ec2 hyphen user. And if we run the same command to check which user is being used, so we can check it with the command module. I know why this particular thing comes up because we have used the privilege escalation, and because of that it's coming as root. So let's comment that particular thing up, Ansible configuration, and if we comment these things out, privilege escalation section, and we'll run the same command again. Yeah, we are able to see that it's a HC2 user, but we have used the privilege escalation. That's why it shows as root, because it's becoming a sudo user to perform the operation on the managed node. That's another way to update the configuration file to set the specified user to connect to the remote host. Next, let's take a closer look to the Ansible inventory. Ansible inventory defines the host that Ansible will manage. By default, Ansible looks for an inventory file at the etc Ansible host file. etc Ansible host file. And we have used the pip3 to install the Ansible. That's why none of the default configuration file is not coming. So we can create here. Otherwise, we can specify into the Ansible configuration file, just like we did now. Now that we have covered how to set up and customize the Ansible configuration file and manage inventory, you are ready to dive into playbooks. Playbooks are the core of Ansible automation. They let you define a series of tasks in YAML that can be reused and applied to different environments. In the next video, we will explore the playbooks in detail and look at how to use them to manage configuration and deployment of application. We will also explore Ansible roles and variables to take your automation to the next level. That's it for this video. We have covered how to create your Ansible configuration and inventory file, which are the key fundamental before moving to the more complex workflow. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you will get notified when the next video on Playbooks drops. And as always, feel free to ask any question in the comment below. See you in the next video. Have a nice day.